With all of the vitriol surrounding late Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg now vacant seat, some are arguing for a more subdued approach to the Supreme Court battle. If you care about the court, don't talk about it. That's the approach staff writer at The Atlantic, Anne Applebaum, is suggesting Americans take in her most recent article. She also discusses why fixating on the open seat is paving the way for an all-out culture war just ahead of this year's November election. And I'm so happy to have Anne Applebaum joining us right now. Anne, thank you so much for being with us. Your advice is pretty simple. If you care about the future of the Supreme Court, don't speak about it, at least until November. So the question I think a lot of people will have, especially people who are seeing you here on our air, is should then we just ignore it? How can we avoid it when that's all that anybody seems to be talking about right now? And in fact, I'd argue that the grim milestone of hitting 200,000 dead in this country has sort of been overshadowed by this fight playing out with politicians on the Hill.
So, of course, obviously, we're going to talk about it. And obviously, if the Republicans are going to try and seat someone before November the 3rd, there are going to be hearings, they're going to be covered, it's going to be part of politics. But what I was urging people to do is not make this the focus of the electoral campaign, and especially for Democrats, not to turn this into a culture war that will make people reflect on their identities, what divides them from other Americans, which tribe they belong to. Get people to focus instead on, as you say, the 200,000 people who have died, the state of the economy, what kind of leadership we really need in order to get our country moving again. What are the real issues facing the country and the issues that people face walking out of their front doors every day? If we can get people to talk about those things, we'll have a better conversation and we'll have a better election.
Yeah, I thought it was a very interesting argument that you present, that essentially, when we focus on the Supreme Court, is it leaning conservative, is it leaning liberal, then we start to focus on kind of single issues, whether it's, I don't think you write this in your article, but whether it's abortion rights or same-sex rights, and suddenly those become the only issues that matter for this country. And you do sort of focus on the Democrats, that the Democrats maybe shouldn't focus so much on this. So I want to ask you, say you're a conservative voter and a conservative Supreme Court is important to you. Does your argument still apply that it's better not to think about it when you head to the ballot box because it's better for the country as a whole?
Well, I would argue that it's better to think about when you're deciding how to vote. Your decision about who should be the president or who should be the governor of your state or who should be your senator should not be based on a sense of tribe. I need to vote this way because this is how my tribe is voting, and this is how the people around me are voting, or the people whose Facebook posts I read are voting. You should be focused on voting for the person who is best positioned to fix the real problems facing the country. Elections really aren't about tribal politics. It's not a mythological war between good and evil, between one kind of person and another kind of person. We're choosing real leaders who have to make real decisions and who have to, and who will wake up in the morning on January the 20th and will have ideas on how to take the country forward. And I would hope people would be able to focus on that. And as I say, not this feeling that I have to vote one way in particular because otherwise my tribe will lose.
And I'm urging readers our viewers to go check out your piece for The Atlantic because it's really, really interesting. And you draw some contrast between some foreign leaders like Vladimir Putin, Rodrigo Duterte in the Philippines, Matteo Salvini in Italy, and how they divided the populations of their countries. And what I found myself thinking about when I was reading your piece is a lot of the things that these politicians make voters think this is all about is really not what it's all about anymore. In other words, polling after polling, for example, to use the abortion debate as one, shows that a majority of Americans support the Roe v. Wade decision. So this argument that they're making that this is all about abortion is less of one that would have affected people, let's say 20 or 25 years ago, when opposition to Roe v. Wade was greater, and more about the things that maybe people who are conservatives aren't thinking about. For example, putting children in cages, or the expansion of presidential power or executive branch power. These are things that are not traditionally what we think of when we think about the battle for a Supreme Court seat.
No, I mean, I agree with that. I mean, the example that I use in the piece and that you're referring to is the one of the current president of the Philippines turned the Filipino political debate into an argument about drug dealers. Leaving aside problems of illiteracy, bad public transportation, profound and extreme poverty. He got everyone riled up on the subject of drug dealers and his policy towards drug dealers, which was essentially extrajudicial murder, and turned that into a kind of outrageous conversation. We're at risk of having the same thing happen to our election, where instead of focusing on the issues that we agree on or the issues that we all know are real, we focus on, as I say, a kind of a culture war, a battle about one theory versus another theory, and we aren't thinking hard enough about who would be the best leader of the country.
Yeah, it's a great article, and Applebaum, the way that politicians sort of divide us along these, like you said, Vlad, these artificial lines, this made-up culture war, and there are a lot of other issues that impact our lives on a day-to-day basis that we should also be factoring in when we vote. And thank you very much.
Thank you.